I think there might be some instances of property crime going down, which maybe could be because, who's going to break into a house if they know people are there because COVID? No one's. But violent crime certainly seems to be going up. And I think statistics show that. So I'd be curious, Amrish, have you what's your sense of public safety issues? Not just SROs, we can talk about that later, but just public safety in general. How do you feel?
Well, the community that we live in, I feel pretty safe. But overall in the county, I think you're right. The crime rate hasn't gone down, from what I understand. I think the traffic intersection fatalities have gone up this year, considerably so than last few years. The general sense I have is that crime hasn't really gone down. I'm sure you and the chief has more statistics to share about that, but that's just, as a resident, my perception.
Yeah, when I talk to community members, a lot of people are worried about the violent crime, and you hear about shootings. We heard about the terrible shooting on Super Bowl Sunday at the Wild Lake Village Center. In the middle of the afternoon, there was a shooting, and a woman and her son both got shot. And fortunately, they weren't fatal. But can you imagine walking through Wild Lake Village Center on a Sunday afternoon? You have to worry about someone shooting you.
Absolutely.
How about you, Chief Gardner? Any thoughts?
Well, crime in general across the country lately has been a concern in a lot of communities. And here in Howard, some of the things that I'm seeing are indicators that should be ringing some alarm bells in the police department. Carjackings, for example, we really hadn't seen carjackings during my tenure as chief. We didn't have that many. And now I believe over the last 2 years we've had over 35 carjackings. And that is a big concern. If people here in Howard County can remember, one of the most heinous carjacking crimes took place in the county in 1992. Actually was one of the cases that was cited when it became a federal crime. And my concern is that we all know what happened in the Batu Case in 1992. On her way to take her 2-year-old to school, and 2 suspects came up, carjacked her. She's trying to get her 2-year-old out of a car seat, and then she was dragged over 2 miles down the road. And then the 2-year-old was tossed in a car seat right onto the road. These things can become very tragic. They're very violent crimes, and they seem to be occurring much more frequently. And so I certainly hope that that's on the radar of our police department right now, and things that we can do to help prevent those crimes, and also some educational information for our community, what they need to do. But they certainly seem to be happening on a much more frequent basis.
Yeah, that's very scary, because you're right. That's very violent, and you often hear about carjackings with young children in the back, and the person who's carjacking is not caring about that young person. They're just getting in the car and going away. So, yeah, that is sad. That's sad, and it's very disturbing as well.
That reminds me of an incident last fall. I think it was late fall. We were on a vacation, and I got a text message from my neighbor, Tory Smith, that both of his car got jacked in his parking lot. And I remember getting on the phone and making sure my alarm systems were on and all the doors and windows were closed and all that. Of course, we weren't home, but so that's a recent memory. So if I go by my personal experience, and we live in a community where everybody touted that community as a safe neighborhood, nobody comes in this area because nobody knows that this area exists, kind of a thing, right?
Right.
Not so true.
No, I understand that, and the thefts and the vehicle thefts, I'm sure, are up as well. It's very difficult to see this happening in our community, because